They're trying their best to distract the American people from the simple fact that they've chosen a partisan fight so that they can prove to their Marxist rising base in the Democrat Party that they're willing to fight Trump and Republicans. There is no objective truth to everything he said there. The Republicans have already said we were going to have thoughtful conversations, deliberation, and debate about continuing the COVID-era Obamacare subsidies because they don't expire until December 31st. They're trying to pretend like that's a September issue. It never was.
Well,
the president
it
himself offered to Chuck Schumer.
The reason it is an issue now is because renewal pricing gets set in October for renewals that begin in November for insurance plans that do expire December 31st for the year of 2026. That's why it is an issue now. So here, Mike Johnson is gaslighting the expiration of these healthcare subsidies, arguing it's not an issue now. It actually is an issue now. Now, if you don't want to extend them, then have that debate and decide that. But don't pretend it's not an issue now.
Hakeem Jeffries in the Oval Office, when I and Leader Thune were sitting next to him, that he would have that thoughtful debate. That is for tomorrow, as soon as we get the government open so that everybody can come in and do that. There's hundreds of ideas on how to...
And you know what's going to happen? As soon as the government reopens, Republicans are just going to go on a vacation. Like, they're not going to actually do anything.
Do it. It was not appropriate or possible for that to be resolved in a continuing resolution.
What about his issue, though, that open enrollment starts in November? People are already getting notices about what they may pay. I mean, that's something that's got to be resolved before
Yes,
December
and they're
1st.
eating up the clock in the month of October. They shut the government down October 1st. We had always been counting on using these 4 weeks in October to finish up those discussions. The great irony is...
Well, you know, we had October to talk about health care, but since you shut the government down, I guess we're never going to get to it. That's the MO all along. Come on, man.
It is they themselves that are doing it. And Shannon, we cannot lose the simple fact that their counter proposal to fund the government was $1.5 trillion in new spending, as you noted. They wanted to give money back for the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and all sorts of things. And they wanted to claw back the elimination of fraud, waste, and abuse that we took out of Medicaid to make it work better. And the $50 billion that Republicans put into the law to prop up rural hospitals. What they're saying today makes no sense.
Well, he does talk about the fact, and we know that there have been rural hospitals that have closed. That's happened here in the Virginia area and beyond. So what about that and his contention that a lot of people will be kicked off Medicaid? And yes, people talk about waste, fraud, and abuse, but there's real concern by some analyses that there will be other people that may qualify in some way that are going to risk, losing kind of health care coverage that the leader is talking about there.
So much to be said there. The rural hospitals that are in trouble right now are not because of Republican policies. This is the legacy of what has happened under Obamacare. And you just heard the leader of the Democrats in the House acknowledge that Obamacare is unaffordable. When they passed it into law in 2010, they promised us it was going to make health care more affordable. They put it in the name of the law. It did exactly the opposite. Premiums have risen exponentially since 2010, and they're not affordable. It was never designed to be affordable. Republicans are the party that are fixing health care. We just demonstrated that in the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cut. We put in reforms to Medicaid, as I mentioned, that cut out fraud, waste, and abuse. It got ineligible recipients off of the program, and it's brought down the cost and made the resources spread more broadly to the people who actually need it. U.S. citizens who are the disabled, the elderly, and young pregnant women, those kinds of folks who are the people who are intended for that program to help. We're shoring up the program. We're fixing health care. Obamacare is what broke it.
So let's get back to those subsidies for Obamacare. He mentioned Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, a Republican. There are other Republicans who are raising alarm. Here's what she said in part on X. I'm absolutely disgusted that health insurance premiums will double if the tax credits expire this year. Not a single Republican in leadership talked to us about this or has given us a plan to help Americans deal with their health.
Of course, because there was no plan to ever discuss health care. The whole MO of this shutdown has been shut it down so we could give Trump the opportunity to unleash J.D. Vance to go on TV every day and tell you how this is the Democrats' fault. It's a Schumer shutdown. And then send in Mr. Vote, Russ Vote, to go lay people off. That's the Grim Reaper. Instead of, as is typical, we've had 20 shutdowns since 1976. Typically in a shutdown, we furlough people, we don't pay them, but then as soon as we unshut down, which the longest shutdown was 35 days, we pay them. Now we're literally firing people. And we're firing at people at the Department of Education, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, the CDC, although apparently now the White House is saying, oh, we accidentally fired the wrong people at the CDC, which sounds a whole lot like what was happening with Elon Musk. Oh, this week it's measles staff accidentally get fired. In April or March or February, under Elon, it was, we accidentally screwed up Ebola. It's like, oh, great. But there's no plan here to ever talk about healthcare. The plan is to fulfill what Donald Trump ran on, which is shrink government. And that's what's happening. And a lot of people are saying, hey, that's what I voted for. I voted for drain the swamp, drain the government. That's what we're getting.
Health insurance premiums, she says, again, doubling. So what is the guidance from you, the leader of this party?
Yeah, I had a thoughtful conversation with my friend Marjorie Taylor Greene on the phone the other night, a couple nights ago, to inform her that there are many Republicans in Congress that have been working around the clock on this. They're on the committees of jurisdiction that deal with this. Marjorie doesn't serve on those committees, so I offered to have her come into the room and be a part of that discussion if indeed she wants to do that. There has been a lot of work done on this. We have hundreds of ideas, literally, on this.
Which is fine. Like, remember, the goal of a politician is to tell you, we have teams of people working on this, but we're actually getting nothing done because we know that nothing is going to get done because the government shut down. We're just going to end up blaming Democrats on it. So it's gaslighting.
Table to fix healthcare, to make it more affordable for the American people, to make access more available, and to increase the quality of care. There's a lot that can be done, but you have to build consensus in a large, deliberative public body like this. And again, what they're saying right now, the reason they're talking about healthcare is because they're trying to create a distraction. We have voted 8 times to pay the troops, pay TSA agents, Border Patrol agents, everybody serving in the federal government, and to make sure these services are provided for veterans and the elderly disabled who need them so much. 8 times now, Democrats in Congress have voted to close the government. We're on day 10. It's real pain for real people, and they seem not to care.
So you mentioned the troops. Let's talk about that, because the president has now said he's ordering Secretary Hegseth to find Pentagon money to pay this week so that none of our active duty folks will miss. And I think all Americans.
Yeah, remember, the sales pitch is drain the swamp. But what it really is drain the part of the government you don't like and then prop up the other part of the government, like the insider trading arm or the, actually probably that, and tax cut arm.
That is a priority. So Democrats say on Friday they tried to offer up a measure on the House floor that would have kept active duty troops paid during any kind of shutdown. They do have at least one Republican signature on it, making it bipartisan. Politico reports this, though: the presiding Republican, Representative Mike Bost of Illinois, gavelled a brief pro forma session to a close before Representative Sarah McElrath, she is the Democrat trying to do this from Maryland, could make a procedural move to try to pass the legislation by unanimous consent. Politico says Congressman Bost was working on your guidance, so why not allow a standalone measure for troops?
Because it's unnecessary, because we already voted to pay the troops on September 19th. We have a chart that we used at our press conference showing every time the Republicans have voted to pay the troops and the Democrats every time voted no. We did it in the House September 19th, over 3 weeks ago, sent it to the Senate, and now 7 different times the Democrats in the Senate, all but 3, have voted not to pay the troops. So the ball is in the Senate's court. The House has done its job, and that's what Chairman Bost was referring to there. That Democrat who tried to bring that resolution on the floor voted against.
Somebody says, why not vote on a continuation? The whole reason Dems aren't voting, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, the whole reason Dems aren't voting on a continuation is because it just kicks the can down the road for 30 days, and now we're in the middle of healthcare enrollment periods, and you don't actually end up getting a guarantee that any of the issues are going to get solved that Democrats are advocating for, such as making sure that the Obama-era healthcare subsidies remain intact so people's health insurance premiums don't increase 33 to 100%, which a lot of people are already getting renewal notices that their health insurance premiums are going to skyrocket 33 to 100%, especially during a time where the consumer is really suffering. The lower and middle class Americans are getting destroyed by this economy, and the people who are getting rich are the people who are already rich. The wealthiest corporations and the wealthiest Americans are doing really, really well. The people exposed to assets, stocks, whatever, but the core of the economy is suffering. AI certainly doesn't help them. So the idea is, hey, let's wait and maybe leverage the shutdown to try to get the poor Americans who need help supported. Now, then, of course, the Republicans are branding this as, oh, well, you're just trying to get health care for illegals. That's Gavin Newsom's fault. I want to be crystal clear about that, because the federal government does not authorize Medicaid paid funding, which are medical payments for poor individuals, to go to undocumented immigrants or to illegals. However, states like California go, monkey see no evil, here's the money to poor people for Medicaid. And then, of course, if illegal immigrants get in that line, yes, technically some of that money flows to illegals. Now, on the flip side, though, the counter-argument to that is California is a donor state, which means California funds the federal government more so than it takes. So then, is money actually really flowing to illegals? Who knows? But you could see, like, when you actually look at that context, it's like, this is not that crystal clear. There's so much gaslighting when you hear just the Democrats or just the Republicans. But it is one of the reasons why China is making fun of us right now. You know, China is massively making fun of us in this, because China's like, see, this is how a two-party system fails. This is why we only have one party in China, the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, right? They're using this as an opportunity to manipulate the world, to go, look how lame America is. They can't get anything done. Look how the stalemates block them from getting investments in robotics or rare earths or things done with their military. They can't even get healthcare solved. What an embarrassment. Mind you, that is technically a feature of the American system of government. Stalemates. Stalemates were designed in part by the founding fathers to make it so that our government really, even in times where one party is heavily in power of the three branches of government, you could argue three branches of government right now because the Supreme Court is so Republican. But even when the government is controlled by one party, there's still an opportunity for the other side to hold progress up, which is what you're getting with Democrats right now. The whole premise of that is that the founding fathers didn't want government to get steamrolled by one party, which to some extent, a lot of extent, is really happening by Trump right now. Especially with the power of the courts. I mean, we'll talk about this in just a moment. But the founding fathers didn't want that. They wanted stalemates because they wanted the government to only actually operate when it needed to, because by design it would then keep government smaller. That's why we had bipartisan support for the first COVID measures under Trump, the first $1,200 stimulus check, for example, because there was an emergency. And oh my gosh, what a surprise. All the politicians got together. But I always think this chart is really interesting. It's this chart of how often justices voted for each administration. And it's so super clear that I keep this on my desk because I think it's so valuable, because as a child, I thought that, people in the Supreme Court should be not politically biased. But then when you actually look at their voting records, you see that Kagan, Sotomayor, and Jackson all vote for Biden policies 77 to 88% of the time, and vote against Trump policies, they vote for Trump policies 0 to 26% of the time. Whereas on the flip side, you get Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Thomas, who vote for Biden policies 18 to 41% of the time and vote for Trump policies 89 to 95% of the time. So clearly there's even political bias in our justice system, which sort of just like breaks the mold of like our childhood impressions that, we're supposed to have an unbiased and fair justice system. We don't.
Against paying the troops. Go look at the record. Every single one of them, and only one Democrat in the House voted to pay the troops. And that vote happened 3 weeks ago.
So I want to get back to the optics of this, because we heard we saw what Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer said about this is getting better for them every day. I want to play a little bit of what he said about why you guys are going to get blamed for this. Here's what he said.
Republicans have the White House. They control the House and the Senate. So when people are laid off, when people are not paid, when people are not getting back pay, they know it's the Republicans trying to do it, even though they're using it to try and bully us.
They think the polling is on their side. The American people are going to hold you responsible.
Chuck Schumer is incapable of telling the truth right now. I mean, he's been in Congress for 44 years, Shannon. I mean, almost half a century. He knows this is basic civics. Every 8th grade civics student can point out the fallacy in what he just said. It requires 60 votes in the Senate to get this through. We only have 53 Republicans. We've got to have a handful.
Yeah, every 8th grader might know that, but what most 8th graders don't know is that historically, during shutdowns, both sides provide some form of give. This is a very rare shutdown where you're getting no give from the Republicans. The Republicans aren't throwing in any additional rider to give Democrats a bone. Usually, flip side, true, when you have Democrats and they're in control and there's a shutdown, they give stuff to the Republicans to keep bribing basically Republicans to come on their side to get 60 votes. Republicans here are trying to do that with Democrats, but they're not giving anything. So yeah, there's hostage taking, but that's the whole point. Like, that's how government works to get stuff done. It's, you give a little, then you get a vote. You give a little more, you get another vote. And that's how you end up getting things done. Polymarket right now is suggesting that will Congress pass a funding bill by ... 2% chance by October 15th, which would be in 2 days, so we're not going anywhere. By Halloween, only 31% chance, and by November 30th, 82% chance. So it looks like the markets seem to be betting that we're going to get a funding bill done in November. And almost markets are guaranteed that we're not going to get anything done over the next few days. It looks like we'll be going into a creepy Halloween, huh?
Of Democrats in the Senate who apply common sense and agree to reopen.
Somebody says, you trust a 44-year-old politician versus Trump who isn't a politician. No, see, this is the problem, is people hear these like zingers from Mike Johnson, and they don't understand that that actually has nothing to do with the question he was asked. He was asked about the shutdown and whether or not Republicans would take blame. And his answer was, well, Schumer's been in the business for 44 years. Okay, first of all, that's a total misdirection. It's a red herring. It has literally nothing to do with you answering whether or not you're going to take blame. And then this person in the comments eats that up hook, line, and sinker and tries to suggest that Trump is not a politician. You got to be kidding me, dude. Trump was the president for 4 years. And then he spent 4 more years bitching about how he wasn't the president for 4 years. And then now he's president again. So we're talking about at least 9 years of being a politician. Nobody knows politics better than Trump. And this idea that he's a businessman, there are a lot of people in politics who are businessmen, but Donald Trump is hands down a politician. Now this idea, but Trump is different. Yeah, you're right. We have the most corruption in the White House we've ever had before. Oh!
The government, so that we can continue all these discussions. As you pointed out to Hakeem Jeffries, this is a clean continuing resolution. What that means for folks back home is it's exactly the same levels of spending. By the way, it's Biden-era policies and spending, which we loathe. But we're trying to get through the appropriations process to change that and fix it for the country, and they ran out of time because the end of the fiscal year, September 30th, we just need 7 more weeks to finish it. And right now they're eating up the clock. They're doing this for political cover. Chuck Schumer, when he voted for the exact same measure back in March, took a lot of heat from the left of his party, and he doesn't want to sustain that any longer. So he's doing this and inflicting pain for his own selfish reasons.
Well, we have not brokered an end to the shutdown here on Fox News Sunday this morning.
I'm a peacemaker. I wish we could.
We are glad to hear from both sides. We appreciate your time, and we'll watch and wait as the American people look.
I'm a peacemaker. Honestly, listen. How do you know a politician is lying when their lips are moving? Somebody here in the chat says, Kevin was never this vocal on politics when Biden was in office. People say this, and they are so damn blind. Go back to my videos. I was the first YouTuber to call on Biden to step down. The second he walked out on that stage, I muted my mic and said, this guy needs to step down. He's done. This is horrible. When that speech was done, that debate was done, I was the first person to make a whole video on how Biden needs to step down. And guess what the comments were then? Oh my gosh, Kevin was never this hard on Trump when Trump was in office. Kevin's being so mean to Biden. Man, suck a fat one, dude. You're so blind, leaving stupid, dumb, uneducated comments. It makes you look dumb. Because I do my best to be neutral and provide neutral perspective. And then you get these jackasses that try to write these zingers. And they're so uneducated, it makes them look like clowns.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.